Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield and this is the Zwiftcast. Coming up on this episode. Zwifting at the size of a house.
It was just great to see the neighbours coming out and looking at what we were doing. They were just saying, wow, how good is that?
First attempt, very intense. R.I.P.
I think it may have disappeared, possibly never to return. It's a little sad.
And the dangers of Zwifting in your shed with banging tunes.
I heard a knock at the door. So I opened the door and there's two policemen. They say they've had a report that there's a party.
Well, my friends, record shattered. No, not Peak Zwift. That's all done. We've moved on. More than 15,000 Zwifters in one event, namely the Ineos group ride or series of group rides. Bernal, Froome, Thomas, in fact, the entire squad rode with us, then raced up the Alp. And I'm going to nail my colours firmly to the mast here right now. Good job, Zwift. HQ nailed this one. I thought it was terrific. G'day, Shane. I know it wasn't Aussie friendly in time zone terms, but big success, that one.
Yeah, for sure. It was middle of the night here, so I wasn't able to ride that one. But long gone are the days where Jens Voigt rides would crash their system with only 200 people or 2,000 people, wasn't it, on at once. So yeah, things look pretty smooth.
Yeah, went really well, I think, that one. And Nathan, yo, dude, I know you weren't on the mic. It was Rob Hatch and Matt Stevens. But the race stream, with one or two minor reservations, was a triumph, I thought. Knocked that nasty GCNB cool thing into a cocked hat.
Yeah, I thought they did an amazing job. It was a ton of fun to watch, and I couldn't help but be a little bit jelly of Rohan Dennis's, 35 minutes up the top? Yeah. I mean, it goes to show what kind of rider he is, though. I mean, one-off super efforts are his thing, and that was almost to be expected, I thought. So hats off to him.
Yeah, that was some ride, actually. And with Dennis being a relatively new signing to Ineos, I think he was making a little point to team management. I like him. Team management and teammates there. Anyway, more on that Ineos event in a little while. But first, a somber and sad note. A small piece of Zwift history has been wiped. We must say farewell to first attempt, very intense, a truly legendary Strava segment. It is no more, at least I can't find it. Shane, as most will know, Strava's taken action to tidy up the terrible mess of segments on Zwift, which is actually a great move. But first attempt, very intense. Has it gone forever? I can't find it.
Yeah, I had a look again today for it. It's not there, so it's gone forever for us anyway. Now the creator of the segment will still be able to see it, but unfortunately we won't be able to. So it had a good run. I'm sure there were millions and millions of first attempts, and I'm sure they were all very intense.
Nathan, I can't actually remember why first attempt very intense acquired its kind of legendary status. I mean, I think it was the misspelling of intense, wasn't it, with no final E. And I think it was also one of those, slightly Fort Bragg, I was a beta user thing.
Hi from Ohio.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's all you need, I guess, right? So yeah, there's that. And then, I mean, what can you do with very intense? I mean, it almost sounds like an aisle at Walgreens I shouldn't be walking down, or at least be seen anyways. So we'll just leave that. You could do all kinds of things with first attempt very intense. I think that's also why it got picked up on specifically in ZVA. So yeah, too bad it's gone at this point, because we had fun with it.
Yeah, no, we did have fun with it. But it was just one of those things. It just became a thing because it did, and no one really knew why. But yeah, seems to have gone. We'll talk later about Strava's move, which actually was a really good one. Okay, but before we do that, let's do this. Welcome to the Zwiftcast to Owen Newbury. Hi, Owen.
Hello.
So the reason you're on is like the mother and father of a Zwift project. For anybody who didn't see this, and it got over 2,000 likes on the Zwift Riders Facebook page, which I think is some kind of record. You took your trainer out into the garden and your projector, and you projected Zwift onto the side of your house. It was awesome.
It was pretty cool, yeah. It did take a long time to set it up, but it was well worth it in the end. Like, it was just great to see, like, with the neighbours coming out and looking at what we were doing.
I guess you haven't measured the image, but it's like it's the size of a house.
We just tried to work with the projector and just try to see if we can expand it out to the house. We tried different angles, but the one what we picked was probably one of the best.
What a scheme it was. And what was the reaction from the neighbours? I mean, did you rope them in to help, or did it come as a kind of surprise to them?
No, it just came into quite a surprise to them. All of a sudden, we had neighbours popping over the fence and looking. We were just asking questions about the app. They were just saying, wow, like, how good like is that? And we want to see more. And then we've been doing it for the last couple of days now. And the same people are just popping up and they absolutely love watching.
So it's become like a spectator sport in your neighbourhood.
Yeah, it's like the Tour de France.
What a scheme it was. How did you come up with the idea, Owen? Was it just like, I know, let's put Zwift on the side of my house?
We do have a white paint at the back of the house. And then I just realised, why don't we use it for Zwift? And then I was speaking to my dad about it and he was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And then we thought, right, let's go with it. And then we just set it up one night and it was the best thing what we've ever done. People
will be interested. So just run us through the kind of basic tech setup. I mean, is it like a super expensive projector or?
It was a decent projector. When we got it brand new. The actual projector is a Sony Data. I'm not sure the actual model of it, but when I looked on the reviews, it was a fantastic projector, so we thought, right, let's go with that. When we use Zwift, we use it through a computer, so we just use it from a HDMI cable into the projector, and then that just projects everything out onto of what we want to watch.
And obviously you've got to drag your trainer outside and stuff like that, but I mean, how long does it take to set it up?
About half an hour, maybe half an hour to 45 minutes for the exact setup of how we want it. But when I do my ride, I like to do long rides on Zwift. So I like to make sure I'm comfortable and I can see and everything's running right.
Has all the reaction been positive? Have you had anybody giving you any grief over it?
I have had one complaint over it about it being too bright and it's shining through the bedroom window on a night. But I've only had one complaint off someone. So all we need is just nice positive feedback.
Does it put pressure on you to put the watt bombs down now you've got an audience?
I do have a set training plan. So I always just say, right, I'm doing this training plan today. So if you want to watch, you're more than welcome. But I will be concentrating within the ride. But they're fine by that. They absolutely love watching me doing it. It just kills an hour of the time when people are bored at home. Obviously, because they're self-isolating, so they're looking over the fence, keeping the distance. And they're watching to have a bit of fun.
It takes streaming to a whole new level. Now, one thing that a lot of people did notice, a small gap in the White House, which is somebody's bedroom window. Whose is that bedroom window, Owen?
It is mine. It is my bedroom, yeah.
Excellent. Well, no risk of indiscretion there then?
No, definitely not.
Well, listen, mate, you gave a lot of people, I was going to say a laugh. I think it was a combination of laugh and admiration and just, what a great scheme, what a brilliant project, how well executed. Well done, mate.
Oh, thank you very much.
Cracking idea and well done with it.
Right on.
So, fellas, shall we just give that dude a quick round of applause, I think?
That was good.
I particularly liked the idea of all the neighbours gathering around to watch him. 2,400 likes on Zwift Riders last time I checked. Amazing. Great scheme. Okay, onward. The green cone of shame for sandbaggers. It's real. In fact, it's so real that Zwift CEO has been flagged and coned. I don't know whether you two guys saw this. Eric Min got a message and recommended to ride in the A's after an out-of-cap performance in a B race. Way to go, Eric. Did you catch that one, Shane?
I did indeed, yeah. So Eric has been sandbagging, or was he just testing some new functionality maybe?
Well, I think we're going to have to give him the benefit of the doubt, aren't we? His excuse was that he was just in for a normal ride, but then he felt great, so he put a big dig in on the final sprint. Good enough excuse, do you think, Nathan?
I mean, isn't it supposed to be so that if you're in the wrong category, you're in the wrong category? But I mean, isn't that how it works? I don't know how that. Like, was that actually what he said? Because I just don't understand. Like, and even isn't there a warning up front that he posted a picture of? I'm looking at the pictures. Time to level up. You're too strong for this group. There was another one though in that post that said something about like you're about to join. Out of category alert. There was one that said,
he got the warning. No. Actually, he posted what the warning looks like rather than, I don't think he got the warning. He'll get the warning next time.
Gotcha.
But you came dangerously close to chastising the chief executive.
Oh, here, it's right here. Yeah, out of category alert. There's one in the post that says this event has active category enforcement. Your power data indicates you're risking being flagged. Please make sure to pick the appropriate category for your ability. I think he said, I don't know. I think that was kind of a side excuse, and really he was looking to test the thing. That's what I think. I don't know. I mean, if it's about categories,
can you hear him backpedaling? Can you hear him backpedaling, Shane? Can you hear it?
Hang on, to make up for this, Eric's on at the moment. I've just given him a ride on. So I've given Eric, so karma has been restored. It's all good.
Well, you know what? It's great to see the chief exec getting down and dirty with this stuff. And he is a very strong rider, Eric, a very strong rider. He's very light. And he trains consistently. And of course, as lots and lots of people will know, as a youth, he was a very, very promising rider, wanted to be a pro, and you never quite lose that, I don't think. Anyway, this is all part of the new anti-sandbagging measures that are being tried out, as we've just seen, on select races in Crit City. Let's see what Zwift Insider head honcho Eric Schlange makes of it so far. Hi, Eric.
Hello, Simon. Nice to be back.
Yeah, well, always good to have you. I must confess at this point, I've not actually ridden any races where the green cone of shame has been active, but you have. Quick reaction, Eric. How do you think it's going?
Considering that it's in early beta and they're still dialing stuff in, I think it's good. What I've seen, it's an especially big improvement from what I've heard and from what I've observed, just dropping in on D races and C races, just observing them. It's really helped clean those up quite a bit. A couple things that I know they need to improve, and I'm guessing they will, apart from just dialing in those trigger levels, which is the secret sauce that we don't really know about. But apart from those, I think there's a little bit of UI work that still needs to be done. When someone clicks to join in game or in the companion, what do you show them in terms of a message? If you think they're sandbagging. So I think they need to dial those in, and that's probably just going to take a little bit of UI work. Then also the results, if you get coned in a race, when the results screen pops up and when you view results in companion, you don't see any evidence of who was coned or who wasn't. So that definitely needs to work, but I'm sure that they've got that planned. It's just a question of updating the app and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think if you do get coned with the green cone, you actually just, you shouldn't be in the results.
I agree. And that's what they need to decide. The other thing I think they need to dial in a little more, and this, obviously Jordan is looking at this a lot closer than I am, but just from what I have observed in a few events, it seems like the cone isn't slowing riders quite enough yet. I see these B riders that are still staying off the front with the cone, and that'd be super frustrating if I was in a race. And then they show up ahead of them in the results in the end.
Yeah, I think if I had to summarize the feedback I've seen within the racing community and the general community, it's that, this is good, but it just needs to be a bit stricter.
Yeah, I think so. In almost all the races I've seen, and I've heard a couple other riders talk about this too, they've said that when the cones start flying, sometimes the messaging starts flying, because now for sure these guys are sandbaggers. They're cheating in my race. And especially if they're staying up ahead or they're pulling the group with that green cone, the messaging starts to maybe get a little bit abusive, a little bit negative.
Fruity,
saucy, spicy. And I'm sure that is not what Zwift wants to see in their game. So I'm thinking actually that they're going to realize that this green cone idea is going to be inviting abusive messaging into the races. And I think they're going to end up ghosting riders like we originally had talked about, like Eric Min talked about, where they're going to disappear somehow and you're not going to be able to message about them or see their name on screen or something, because we're cyclists. We know how this is. If this was a real race and this was happening outdoors, there would be abusive messaging flying.
Yeah. Yes.
So they're going to have to do something, I think, to protect themselves there.
I don't want to sound like a shill, but I do think it's a good start.
Oh, I do too. I don't want to be overly negative at all. Like I said at the beginning, I think it's for where it's at and it's still in beta. I see it's all going in the right direction. It just needs to be dialed in, and I think they're going to probably have to figure out that messaging issue.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. I'm excited about where it's going. And if I was a D or a C, I'd be even more excited, because it's really, I'm sure it's going to clean up the race experience a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we all want that. For now, Eric, thanks very much. We'll talk to you later.
All right. See you, Simon.
Nathan, I just think pretty much as Eric said there, it just looks a little bit too cautious so far. And I know you don't approve of this whole system all round. I know you would like to, implement your system, which there's a bit of support for. But he did say it was going to start soft, but it looks as though it started kind of very soft.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Like from what I heard Derek saying, there were riders that could continue to win races even while being throttled. So that's probably just needs a little bit more aggression on the throttling. I don't know exactly, he said the magic sauce, or what the, special ingredient.
Secret sauce.
Yeah, the secret sauce there would be, what exactly are the numbers that trigger it, and whether or not those need any adjusting was the main thing I'd be concerned about. But the, throttling, if it doesn't make you just out of the race in some sort of ways, I don't know. And then he had a great point by Eric, like this might just lead to ghosting people because of the whole chat thing. I mean,
yeah. That was a good point. That was a good point.
People start, getting mean. If we're getting into a competitive space though, I mean, jump into any Fortnite game or any other online game with all kinds of people, and next thing you know, that's why we don't have voice chat, right? Like, what kind of conversation would be happening there? Because it's there.
Yeah.
From what I'm told, it's somewhere out there. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all know what adrenaline does to you in any kind of racing situation in real life, don't we, Shane? I'm sure one or two 4-letter words have passed your lips, and certainly passed my lips in a bumpy crit.
Yeah, look, as an Aussie, we're born with 4-letter words. That's our first couple of things we say. I think so. It does happen, yes. These changes seem pretty good. I'm going to call this Patrick Swayze mode. We need more ghost, which should improve the experience for everyone. And I've always said anything that improves the experience for everyone, I'm all for. So if we can get this as a small step first and then introduce more Patrick Swayze mode, it's all good.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, if it is to make progress quickly and be credible and maintain the support it's got amongst the community, the changes that need to be made, they need to be made fairly quickly, don't they?
Yeah, for sure. With the recent influx of riders coming in, especially competitive cyclists coming into Zwift for the very first time, we see today the announcement of the Australian National Road Series going to the esports side of things using Zwift. You're going to have some pretty tough races on there, but they want things to be even and equal and people to be all in the right zones. And for when the fans jump on, not just the top end races, the fans who are in the C, D, and E categories to jump on and have their own competitions as well that is fair. These things need to be rolled out across the board for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you just new power up when they see the ghost. He's got a Patrick Swayze. He's got a Patrick Swayze. Oh, he's going Patrick Swayze mode.
I was surprised at that reference, actually, Shane. That's a really old movie now, isn't it? A really old movie.
I'm showing my age, but look, they're rerunning all the old movies here recently, and I think it's been at least 24 hours since they last run Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. I think we're due for those as well. So, yeah. But look, it's all about the obscure references. I think was it potatoes last week? Now Patrick Swayze this week. What's next week? What are we going to?
It's a whole new language. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the Ineos event of last weekend. A couple of things to emerge, which I'm going to discuss with these two in a minute. But first, another burst of Eric Schlange. Legs recovered from the Ineos exertions, Eric?
Oh yeah, it was a Cat C ride, and I wasn't pushing nearly as hard as you were, sir, Mister pinning it out the front. So,
I was trying to keep up with the beacon, which is something we're going to talk about later in the podcast, actually. But just kind of overall, Eric, I mean, I often lapse into criticism of Zwift where I think it's due, but I was really, really impressed with the whole Ineos weekend.
I was too. Massive numbers of riders. They said it was a record turnout for, I assume it was for the combined 3 events. They said it was, I think, 15,530, I think was the number I heard. So huge number of riders, having team riders lead every single category. So really well organized. I mean, it was Ineos level organization, which I really appreciated. They executed it well. And I thought that, from what I hear, the riders that led the groups did a good job, which hasn't always been the case when pro riders lead groups. So they were definitely prepped a little bit, which is good.
It's an interesting point you make there, actually. And, Ineos, when they commit to something like winning the Tour, they throw everything at it. And I do get the sense that because they'd committed to lending their name to this series of events, there was no messing about. The riders knew what they were doing. They'd obviously had some kind of educational process on Zwift, which sometimes, to be, with the best will in the world, you don't see that with pro riders. It had the kind of stamp of Ineos team management all over it. Yeah,
I agree. Had a different feel than a lot of the pro level events even that we've been seeing. Just seemed a little more polished.
Yeah. Completely agree with that. Just on these kind of weekend events, I mean, hesitant though I am to mention Peak Zwift, it looks as though kind of Peak Zwift has shifted a bit, really. I mean, we might still see Peak Zwift on Tuesday, but the weekends are looking more and more and more important as we talk about a world in lockdown. And I certainly now look forward to my weekends if they revolve around something cool to do on Zwift. Are you finding that?
Yeah, I am. I've observed the same thing myself personally. It's typically on a weekend you go out and do something, but you can't go out. So it's my weekday schedule is kind of the same as it's always been, but the weekends it's like, well, might as well.
Now what?
Put in a 6-hour ride. And
Sunday's the new Tuesday for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we're both going to give that 5 stars, aren't we? In that sea ride, where did you finish in?
I don't remember the placing. Were there even placings on it?
No, there weren't placings. You had to kind of call it based on where you thought you were in proportion to the beacon.
At one point I was with the beacon, and I think I even ended up maybe in front of him at the end, but I know because I glanced at your times on it, and you were at least a few minutes ahead of me at the end. So, I mean, it was a giant group. But I started way behind the beacon because I joined with only, I think there were 5 minutes left, which meant I was 6 miles behind the beacon in this massive group. But that was fun. It was just supposed to be an easy ride for me anyway because I had done a metric century the day before. So.
Wow. I must say, I did set out to hammer it. And then when I saw that sub 30 for 2 laps of Watopia Flat was in reach, I did go for that, which I think was possibly a new record for me, being fat and old and slow. Eric, for now, thanks very much.
Hey, my pleasure.
Okay, a couple of additional things to explore with you two. A little bit more generic, because I know you two weren't massively involved, probably not as involved as Eric and I were for kind of time zone reasons and other reasons in the Ineos race. So let's just pick up a couple of things. On the group ride stuff, I mean, very little noise in the forums from Zwift, from people running Zwift on potatoes, which was good. And I do just want to reiterate praise for Zwift for these kind of events. Pretty much all the reaction I saw was positive. And, this is just the kind of thing we need right now, those kind of events. That said, there were minor outbreaks of whinging about pace. But here's an interesting thing I noticed. And maybe this has been going on forever and I've not been paying proper attention. But I noticed this. The Ineos riders, in my experience, were actually generally holding the advertised pace really well. But despite this, the beacon appears to be well ahead, which just kind of encourages people to push on. But in fact, as far as I can see, the gap to the beacon can be something of an illusion because Zwift is only drawing the 100 riders nearest to you. So in these really big group rides, the riders around the beacon can be invisible because they're not in that 100 nearest to you, and that obviously depends where you are in the pack. So that means it looks as though the leader is pushing the pace, but they're not. Have I got that right, Shane? And it's a really weird quirk if that's the case.
Yeah, I've seen this happen in large rides as well, where the beacon is really, really far back and it looks like they've been dropped, but that's not the case, because what happens is, as you said, you only see the nearest 100 riders, and that's really limiting. And more so, you'll see this if you've dropped into the start of a race with 3,000, 6,000 riders on the pier, you'll be this very small blob. But you'll be, put 50 meters or so virtually back. And it looks kind of weird that you're just seeing the only 100 riders, where in fact there's 30 or 40 of those little blobs of 100 riders on the start line. So it doesn't really represent what's taking place. Now, in real life, I've raced tours with 100 riders in the bunch, and I've been on start lines of large fondo events with thousands and thousands of rolling out, and they're very two different experiences. And these massive Zwift events are just lacking a little bit of that feel of these massive events. We can see the numbers on screen, and we can see the nearest 100 riders, but we just don't see the thousands when we use the other camera angles. So I'd love for Zwift just to draw maybe just a little pixel or something just to identify how big these bunches really are. I think it would really surprise people to know there are 30, 40, 50 of the little bunches that they can see really there on Zwift with them at the time.
I mean, they're drawing 100 closest riders for very good reasons, aren't they? Not unrelated to potatoes, actually, in some cases. But when that excellent reason then sort of interferes with gameplay because it produces that quirky effect, that is a bit weird, I must say. But I'm not sure I see a really easy solution to that on like dynamic moving big group rides. Do you, Shane?
Just one pixel will do, just something, because these riders on the start line, it would be hard when there's a lot of detail on screen. But I think if you're 100 riders or 101st rider in front or 101st rider behind you, you can really cheap out on the graphics and just have a flat file or a flat little image just shimmering a little bit. Yeah. Make it super cheap on the potato, so potatoes can still participate, or maybe even have potato mode so that you only see the 100 is a potato. If you've got a really good gaming system, you may get 1,000 on the screen. If you've got an Apple TV 4K, maybe 500. Something a little extra for those who have got systems that can push it. I think it's really important for the broadcasting side of things, especially with what Nathan does. If you drop back to a big camera angle, you want to see thousands and thousands of riders. I think people would be, as I said, really, really surprised at just how many people are in the game that you don't see. There are lots more.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice actually to write some more on, because we got in broadcast we do have some pretty nice rigs, and it does kind of stink when when there's a large A group and you want to see all of those riders, and some of them are popping in and out. It would be nice to see a few more for sure. So I'm with you on that, Shane.
I have to tell you, boys, in a weird piece of synchronicity, I've got the script on the screen in front of me, and a message just popped up from my dear wife, who's always thinking of me and particularly my stomach, and it was a recipe for tonight for potatoes.
Does she want to watch Ghost at the same time? Maybe. We'll be lining up here.
Seriously, it was. She said, "I'm going to have these potatoes tonight. Why don't you?" She must. Maybe she's listening. Who knows? Anyway, onto the racing. I'm going to push hard on something I've thought about for ages, and I think was completely proved on the Ineos race up the Alp. The watchability of these races is improved out of all recognition if the fields are small. With small fields, you can actually follow the action without being some kind of deep in the weeds Zwift nerd. There's no massive jostling riders, which, to be honest, to most people is just hideously confusing. And small fields make the actual coverage of the race just a whole lot more practical. I mean, it makes the story of the race easier to tell. You know, people don't get lost. They know where they are, even if the cameras aren't in exactly the right place at the right time. I'd like to see, Nathan, I would like to see a maximum rider limit of 25 on all big, high-profile streamed races. Tell me I'm wrong.
The first thing I'll say is we already do that in real life racing, actually. Like, you kind of turn it on the tour. If you're really, really nerdy and involved, you'll watch the whole thing through. You wait until there's a separation, and then you watch who's who. That already happens, right? And like, if it's a sprinter stage, you kind of tune out and you watch the end because you see who's who. The last 5 riders standing are the ones who make it in that last split second. It's kind of cool when you see them winding in the last few K, but so we really already do that with how we watch it. So I'd agree with you there on bike racing in general. I would say that we would want to make it a round robin tournament style like we see in a lot of the Defense of the Ancients or MOBA style events or even CSGO events where the round robin makes it where it's pitted against riders against riders against riders against riders over and over again. We have seen that in some of the Zwift beta tests where there were multiple rounds, one after another with only certain riders invited in. I really think that would be the way to go so we weren't excluding any, and we could have all day long esports then too, like we see in the other esports with continual competitions on these courses. So I think that's a really good point. And it's just the way that we need to keep the action so that we can talk about who's who and tell the stories and watch the story unfold and head-to-head racing more and more.
Well, I just think it's particularly pertinent at the moment because you're getting, I don't know what the final numbers were on that Ineos stream. I mean, it's just so opaque. It's almost impossible to tell. But, I'll bet my last pot of chamois cream that was probably the biggest ever streamed race on Zwift, probably hundreds of thousands of views by the time everybody counts it up across various different platforms. Anyway, the point is there is a large potential audience there right now. And if you present them with the average Zwift streamed race, which is like, 200 furiously jostling pixels, the newbie to that is going to be like, WTF, what am I watching here? Anyway, want to think about, and you're right. I think
one other thing there, Simon, is we don't have good team identification right now or identification of riders. So if there were, like, I'm thinking, why does football succeed? Why, these other things with masses of individuals? It's because the team identification becomes the thing and not the individual so much. Whereas individual sport, then, and it is a little bit more individual in the Zwift world right now. There are teams, but they're just not well identified. They're not well branded out there. There isn't a way to really cheer for them just yet. And so that might have something to do with it. Once we get stronger identification as well as the way that you can work together on Zwift, if that enhances and it can be identified visually, I think you could actually get away with it in a much more real way than you get even in real life cycling. Because if you start seeing interactivity with strategy between a team that's live in pixels on the screen with colors and ways that it identifies that team working together with their power and their tactics, I think that would actually really, really stand out and be good with 100 plus, because they would stand out amongst them and you would see what the different teams were doing in the peloton to fight against each other.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I just think a really simple thing to do would be to say, let's just have small field races.
For now, 100%. Yeah,
okay, so you didn't tell me I'm wrong. I'm right. I'm right again.
Not at all. No, you're 100% right on that one.
Honestly. Okay, so you're Zwifting in your shed. There's a knock on the door. It's the cops. It happened. Welcome to the Zwiftcaster, Keith Jardine. Keith, hi.
Hi there.
This is a great story, but let's take it from the top, Keith. First of all, I think what we need to know is just describe your Zwift setup to us.
Unlike most people, my Zwift setup's not in the house. It's in the garden shed. It's just a small garden shed, so everything has to come out. It's I've got another couple of bikes. They sit out in the lawn while I'm in there on Zwift. So I've also got a small Bluetooth speaker because I like to listen to kind of high energy music while I'm on Zwift. On Tuesday night, I had trance classics from the 90s. So because we're currently in lockdown in the UK, there's actually no noise.
You're in the Scottish borders, aren't you? Are you in a rural area?
It's a town, and it's a town of about 13,000.
So you're in lockdown, you're Zwifting away like many people, and like many people, you got some tunes blasting out. What happened next, Keith?
Well, I heard a knock at the door, which I thought was my partner. So I opened the door, and there's 2 policemen standing there. And they say they've had a report that there's a party, and can I turn the music down? I'm dripping from basically doing Box Hill. And they just look at me and laugh. And I look at them, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize because the music was that loud.
Obviously, the cops took it in good heart, but were they kind of surprised to find out what you were doing in your shed?
Yes, I think they were quite surprised that I was on a trainer in the shed. They actually had a look in and looked at the laptop. Fortunately, I was at the top of Box Hill, so I didn't affect my current run up Box Hill.
And what was your reaction when you saw two cops outside your shed? Did you think you were hallucinating?
Initially, I thought, what had happened?
Yeah.
But then obviously my partner was in the house, and she didn't actually. She said, "Oh, I saw them in the garden," but I didn't think anything of it.
What strange times we live in. Two policemen in the garden knocking on your shed door and nobody thinks it's weird. So, I mean, piecing this together, presumably this was probably concerned neighbours rather than nosy neighbours, but somebody blew the whistle on you.
Yeah, it's obviously it's ironic because I live opposite a police sergeant, but I don't think it was him. But yeah, some neighbours on the other side, I think, have probably have heard the thing is that because during the lockdown, there's been a spate of teenagers drinking, so they probably thought it was a party. The crux of it is that I've had an illegal rave and it's been raided and shut by the police.
Can you remember what was playing?
Yeah, it was Faithless Insomnia. It's a kind of classic early 2000s track.
Or maybe Zwifters should take a note not to play that particular tune too loud. Once it became obvious to the cops, which I imagine was fairly soon, they were presumably extremely understanding.
Yeah. They basically just left. I just had headphones on. I went on and finished it was the PRL half, so I was only halfway through it. So I went on and finished that.
And did you not take the opportunity, Keith, as all good Zwifters do, did you not take the opportunity to try to convert them?
No, I didn't actually. They didn't look like cyclists.
Well, it's a marvellous little lockdown story, Keith. Thanks very much indeed for sharing it with us. And carry on Zwifting. Ride on, mate, and keep those tunes down.
I will do. Thank you. Thanks again, Simon.
The cops would have to get up 4 flights of steep stairs to find me right now. So I think I'm safe. But I guess we all do have to be just that little bit more considerate now there are so many poor people at home. Do you Zwift in headphones so as not to wake young Max, Shay Miller?
No, Max loved the tunes. This week he's been bopping away to Rage Against the Machine and AC/DC. But if I'm in the Llama Lab when he is sleeping, I put in the headphones. I've been recommended the AirPod Pros, which are an expensive little test that I'm carrying out. Headphones are a really personal thing. The over-the-ear. Yeah, the over-the-ear ones don't work too well. I have used them in the past. You just have to clean them all the time and replace the little spongy bits. But no, it really depends on the time of day. I will be cranking the tunes pretty loud, though, and they're pretty bad tunes, too, for everyone else. I love them.
We've got this far, and you've not mentioned S Club 7 or Taylor Swift. What the hell?
That's the secret playlist. Yeah, we don't talk about that, only in group chat.
Nathan, do you listen, or are you still doing that thing where, you're sending multiple emails while cruising in Zone 3 for 9.5 hours or whatever it is you do?
I play Hearthstone a lot lately and listen to lots. So I have a couple of playlists, but my YouTube playlist is a lot of pretty chill EDM that came out of a Kygo period, but I kind of got away from that and got to a lot of pretty, I don't know, I wouldn't call it mellow. It's like this mixture of like almost heading into the jazz of EDM. I don't know what else to call it. So no, it's not jazz. It's not jazz. Did you hear the second part? EDM, electronic dance.
I get that. All right, okay. It's just you said a trigger word for me. It has been scientifically proven that nobody likes jazz. Nobody likes jazz. Don't get me going on jazz. Do not get me started going on jazz. I have to say, Spotify radio stations is my friend. I find a tune that I like, and it does tend to come from the EDM realm. I think that's just so right for Zwifting. I find a tune I like, and then I do that Spotify thing that says, play me a radio station based on this. That really works for me, actually, because you do set off with the best of intentions, don't you? You think, right, I'm doing a really good Zwift session today, so I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do a Spotify playlist before, and you just never get around to it, do you? Anyway, there we go. So we touched briefly on the changes Strava has made to segments in Zwift, and we'll talk some more about Strava in general in a moment or two. But let's get another quick word with Eric Schlange on the changes made. I'm back yet again for yet another area of his extensive expertise, Eric Schlange from Zwift Insider. Eric, I think everybody agrees that Strava's action, well, actually pretty much all of Strava's actions in recent months have been very well received. Strava seems to be getting some common sense back, but its action in cleaning up this ridiculous mess of segments on Zwift is really, really, really welcome. So we'll talk broadly about that, but I just want to talk specifically at first. Have we seen the end? Shane and Nathan and I were discussing this earlier in the podcast. Have we seen the end of first attempt Very Intense? I went looking for it and I couldn't find it.
I think it may have disappeared. I think it may be filed away in some early Zwifters list of private segments, possibly never to return. Yeah, it's a little sad. Sad
day. But with progress always comes a little sacrifice, and this is a very progressive move by Strava, isn't it? I mean, it just reeks of common sense.
It does, and the community seems to be overwhelmingly in support of it. The little bit of negative I hear, I think, are people who don't necessarily understand exactly what the change is. But by and large, people are ecstatic with the prospect of not having to filter through hundreds of nonsense segments.
Critically importantly, the verified official Zwift Insider segments survive. Did you have a kind of conversation with Strava about that? Or
I did. Wes Salmon at Zwift kind of put me in touch with Strava, and then we all kind of emailed around, and the first topic that came up with is the what do we do? How do we make sure that these verified segments stay public? Because those are the ones people care about the most. So they said I was a special case, which isn't the first time in my life I've been told that. But yeah, they were really cool about it, and they worked with me. And it sounds like I kind of have their ear now, so I'm hoping to fix some of the other niggles that I have with Strava. Like they won't let me create short segments for certain portions of the Alp and things like that. So we'll see if Strava can fix a few more things while we're at it.
Yeah, we're in a very privileged position. So, if anybody really, really wants to create a segment, they've got to bribe you to do a Zwift Insider verified segment.
It might be. According to Strava, there is a mechanism where anything can be made public. Hopefully it's not going to throw too much of a wrench in community events that maybe need special public segments to be created. So I'm sure we'll find that out pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, whoever's running Strava has been overdosing on common sense pills, and in recent weeks.
I agree. Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, very good to see. And no doubt we'll be hearing from you in future episodes. But for this episode, thanks very much indeed for your scholarly and considered contributions, Eric.
My pleasure, Simon. I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Shane, as I alluded to in that chat with Eric, somebody has been dishing out in very large quantities the sensible pills at Strava, not unconnected, I don't think, to the return of the founders to the company in like proper executive roles. I mean, they've just really sharpened up their act, haven't they?
I've got to say, Strava have turned a corner.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bad dad joke, I guess, given they're all about navigation and routes. Look, hating on Strava was a cool thing to do for a while because they were just restricting. The features coming out from Strava we're taking away the API, we're taking away this, we're restricting this. GDPR probably had a lot to do with that, plus some privacy issues with secret army bases being found by people doing heat maps and things and runs around and uploading. Hating on Strava was fun for a while, but they're changing that, which is really good to see. I think most of us use Strava, whether we like it or not. We're on Strava. They do offer a pretty damn good service that's unparalleled anywhere else. So I'm really happy to see. I've been doing a number of videos on the updates for Strava and what's coming along. Those videos do really well. There's interest in it. So it's good to see. I'm happy about the positive changes made there for sure.
Well, they're listening. I mean, I'm sure these companies, they always say, why you listen to the community? But, Strava were particularly tin-eared, I think. And they do now seem to be genuinely not only listening to people, but acting on what it is that people want, which, that's a quick way to get yourself re-loved. And hell, we all loved Strava when it first came along. I mean, what a game changer Strava was. And then suddenly it became like, that payment package, multi-tier payment package. God almighty, that was complicated.
There's still a case of, I guess, was it Henry Ford said if we gave people what they wanted but have faster horses? So there is a case of having to steer the ship yourself. So I think Strava, they were giving us just faster horses, they were at risk of giving us faster horses because that's what we wanted. So they're back to giving us what we need, a lot of low-hanging fruit. And I guess that's the topic of the day or of the recent weeks. There are a lot of engineers now at home. They can do some easy grab stuff rather than big rollouts, and something like the tidy up of all the junk segments is just a bit of a database change, which can have a big impact on the processing their end. So I think we'll see more and more of these little things that just improve the experience.
The populists appear back in control on Strava. Nathan, have you got that road bike out of the garage yet, mate?
I have never had fatigue like this from a flu for this long in my entire life. Like,
do you think you've had it? Like,
this is going on way, way longer. And I also have a dry cough. Yeah. Like, I usually after flu, I have a lot of like mucus and just stuff coming out of my lungs, massive amounts usually. Usually it's just like the more green stuff is coming out of me, the better, because I know it's coming out of there. I can't seem to hack anything up. No, I'm sorry for the imagery, but like, nothing is coming. It's just like a cough that just never ends, and it's just dry. It's like, what is this? But I don't feel
fatigue and a dry cough. I mean, they are the top two symptoms. I mean, I woke up the other day. Actually, I think it was just an allergy thing. I had a bad allergy day. I'd been outside within the confines of my home. I'd been on the terrace all day the day before, and I think I got a bit of an allergy thing. But I woke up really, really sniffly. So obviously, immediately, oh my God, I've got COVID. So onto a very reputable website to look at symptoms, and a runny nose. It is a symptom, but it's a symptom in 5% of people. So I kind of ruled that out immediately. But dry cough and fatigue, that is a symptom. I think. Don't quote me. I don't want to get this wrong, but it is a very, very, very prevalent symptom in percentage terms of people who are then proven to have had it. I think Dr. Schofield here, Nathan, I think you must have had it, mate.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't know if it's worth it ever getting any kind of test or anything, but hopefully yesterday I did a Bologna TT just to kind of open up to feel. I was like, I don't know. Okay, let's just go see if there's anything in there. And like hit 180 heart rate. I think I took 5th in the race, and I was pushing 6 watts for quite a while or whatever. So that felt good, but that thing was still there. That told me, don't go to 185. You're about to hurt yourself again. Like I could, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. When you still have a little bit of I'm okay with pain. Harm is a different thing, and I could tell I was maybe about to harm myself by pushing too hard when I'm maybe a little under still.
There's an interesting.
I didn't win the race. That's my excuse.
There's an interesting topic. The border between pain and harm. Interesting one, Shane. I kind of know what Nathan means there. When you cross into the harm,
if I was well, it'd be different. I would have just gone all in, not abandoned, not even cared. But knowing that, like, it's a feeling I only know from long experiences with working out and being sick. Though I wouldn't know it otherwise, And so, anyways,
I'd characterize harm, so Shane, as that portion of the ride and the pace of the ride. More often outside for me than inside, I must say, where you're going so hard that tomorrow is going to hurt the whole day.
Well, it sounds like Nathan did the Bologna time trial, not the Bologna time trial. Was that it, Nathan? Have you renamed that one? It's just it's for where they send the dead at the top there. Going hard. The best thing about being on an indoor trainer, a fixed indoor trainer, is you can go really, 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 really hard in claps and you don't fall off. And you can collapse, and just outside, you still have to stay upright. So I'm not sure. I've pushed myself both indoors and out, but I think I can recover a little easier indoors. But again, I haven't had the Rona, so I'm not sure. By the way, speaking of dates and things, Ghost was released in 1990. Just FYI.
Good Lord. Okay.
So this is not just straight excuses. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to I've pushed myself inside out. I mean, come on, really? Like, I'm saying that there's when you're sick, like there's a knowledge in the body that that you are taking from resources at this moment that your body is using to protect something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about protection, not about anyways. I get that, Nathan's ego is getting in the way right now.
I get that. Well, the thing is, Dr. Schofield speaking, you shouldn't be riding while sick, mate. Anyway, I feel like we're wandering around a little unsupervised here, so let's get back on track. Time to pay tribute to just one of the people who, again, in the New World Order, have become super, super important, and that's ride leaders. The vast majority of ride leaders on Zwift are volunteers, and they do a magnificent job. One of them passed a big landmark recently, so a good opportunity to check in. Well, welcome to the Zwiftcast to Sharron Yaxley. Hi, Sharron.
Hi, Simon. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. The main purpose of this is to offer you fantastic congratulations on a huge milestone, 100,000 kilometres on Zwift. It came the other day, and in company, I think.
Yep, that's correct. About 300 or 400 people joined me. I had intended to do it solo and call it ho-hum, but some other people had alternative ideas.
300 or 400 of your closest friends. And I think probably the reason that happened, Sharron, is, I mean, you've just been a fantastic servant to the community, really. You've led ride after ride after ride. What do you get out of it?
I like to help people, and I like to see people realise that they have a lot more depth and strength than they actually give themselves credit for. And I've had to learn that myself, that I've actually got a lot more capacity than a lot of other people or myself ever thought that I had.
Yeah, and I think you found that out on some kind of in real life rides, haven't you? You've done some epics, haven't you?
Look, the epic one that you're talking about isn't my longest ride by any means, but it was my solo ride. It was suggested to me that I had never done anything alone in life. And it was 2 years ago, so I was 55. And I chose to ride from Auckland in New Zealand to Cape Reinga, which is the very northern tip, and returned. So it was a loop ride of about 1,150k, which I did over 10 days, totally on my own. I bawled my eyes out the night before I left. I had a cyclone on day 2. I got a lot of strength of character out of doing that ride.
And you've obviously transferred some of those learnings to your ride leadership on Zwift. Now, you're with the big ring at the moment, but you've ridden with lots and lots of other groups, haven't you?
I started off with SAS, and that's where I got my name, the Mink. I was with AHDR for a while. TBR I joined after I did my 24-hour ride because they really reached out to me during that ride. They helped me when I needed help, so it was the least I could do in return.
And help is what you excel in giving. I mean, everybody I've ever come across who's been on one of your rides has nothing but good to say about it. You seem to have that knack of being able to encourage people and be incredibly patient.
I have faith in them more than they have faith in them. And I know that if they give themselves enough of a chance and enough training, that they, for example, will get to that century milestone. And once they get to that century milestone, and then, they set new goals. It might be an imperial century, or it might be a double century. And I know they've got that capacity before they realise they've got that capacity.
But you managed to bring it out of people, which is a real skill.
I think it's just being nice and supportive and encouraging. That's all it takes.
You make it sound easy, Sharron, but it's not.
I guess I find it easy. Maybe it comes naturally. And that was really what led me to do the Mink Centurion ride. I knew that there was a market out there for a so-called slower century ride. But if you could get enough decent riders to group together to support slower riders or newer riders, you could actually help get them to their century, because the draft on Zwift is, I find, particularly strong.
Well, you've got a fantastic reputation as a ride leader, and if anybody comes across Sharron or the Mink, as you're often known on Zwift, and you're a bit of a newcomer, I'd really suggest you join in, because you get people over the line, Sharron. And I guess you more than most are seeing some of the consequences of all these new Zwifters coming on.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's just it's something else at the moment. The numbers on events are quite extraordinary at the moment.
Unfortunately, the plague, the virus, has rained on your plans for summer. I think you were going to do something big in Italy.
Yes, a couple of weeks' time we were flying to Rome, and we were heading out to Corsica for about 12 days, where we were cycle touring, carrying our gear, and from there we were both heading to northern Italy, where I got a gig with Italy Bike Tours for the last 12 days of the Giro d'Italia, supporting riders there. And from there, we were going to head to Switzerland, where one of my children lives, and do a little bit more riding. But, that's out the window. And I think our plans for Christmas, which were circumnavigating Taiwan, might be out the window as well.
Well, there are no plans, are there, this year? There are just no plans, or, the plans that everybody had are just straw in the wind at the moment, which obviously is a shame, but we've got bigger things on our mind. On to happier matters, and you, as I say, you're one of the most popular, consistent and helpful ride leaders, and that 100,000 kilometres is a real achievement. Lovely to have you on, Sharron. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks. Thank you, Simon.
Well done to Sharron and all the ride leaders on Zwift. You all do a great job. Okay, that's almost it, fellas. Again, little housekeeping. I said on last week's episode that we'd have a senior bod on from Zwift leadership. That will happen, but not till probably next week. It's been delayed for some very good reasons. More on that next week. Okay, boys, just before we go, I just want to check out live. I know we're all in front of machines that are not potatoes and do connect to the internet. I just want to check out live a terrible rumour I heard. I heard a rumour. It started on Zwiftcast listeners, actually, which is not normally a place of unsolicited and unfounded rumour. Which was a global shortage of chamois cream. I mean, really. Can things get any worse? So is it true? I'm going to log on to my provider of choice. I'm going to ask you to do the same. So there'll be the sound effects of keyboards clacking for a moment. Right. Wiggle. In the UK, there is no chamois cream. Nathan.
Let's see here. I'm trying a couple different. I guess I'll just try competitive cyclist. Yeah, it looks like we've got Mukoff, ASOS is Castelli. Here, let me see. Castelli says, if I want to add the cart item in stock, Castelli's item in stock, ASOS, item in stock.
American asses are safe. We can sleep easier in our bed in America. Shane, how about Australian bottoms?
Just pulled up one of the popular websites here to purchase things online, pushies.com.au. Fully stocked. It's all good. It may be that we all use Vegemite anyway as chamois cream, so no one's buying this stuff.
Maybe this is a UK thing. So good. I'm glad, because I don't want to be starting panic. That really would be serious if the world ran out of chamois cream. Okay, that's it. Just a quick survey of other activities. Shane, your channel, I assume, is healthy and happy over on YouTube.
Yeah. Look, the last 3.5 years of content that I've uploaded is going crazy at the moment. Lots of people getting on board for the first time, or wanting to know more about the hardware they have to get set up properly to get on Zwift. People may have an old trainer, but just haven't got it all hooked up. So a lot of the content that I've uploaded for the last few years is going really well. Also, the live streams are becoming very, very popular. It must be that people are at home not doing anything at all. So I've done a little video on how to set up a live stream, just the basics, which covers having good audio, good lighting, and a step-by-step guide on how to get yourself onto Twitch, which is really, really easy to do with the hardware that we have. But don't try this at home with a potato.
Your live stream of the Alp was pretty popular, wasn't it? But no wheels.
Tell me about it. It's becoming a theme. So I at the top of the Alp, if people aren't aware of it, if you haven't gone up the Alp, I think everybody should go up the Alp. There's a spin wheel at the top, and there's a little, it spins automatically, and you're assigned a prize at the top. The lightweight milestones are the wheels that everybody wants, that everybody apart from me has a set of, and I do not have it. I've been up 13 times now. The other day I thought, yep, let's go up there, we'll get the wheels. And then it didn't happen. And then Von was standing next to me on the live stream and has let out oh my word, and she gave me hell, and everyone loved it. So last night, again, I clipped in round 2, tried it again. I got the damn helmet. So we'll be clipping in probably tomorrow night again. I found a good time of day that works. Most people in the UK love to watch people suffer. So tomorrow night I'll be clipping in, going for the 14th ascent. I want those wheels.
You are preparing yourself a real bed of nails there, Shane, because you're going to have to keep doing this until you get them and doing it live,
It's a bit of fun. It's good reason for motivation. And I guess the reality check is we all need a bit of motivation at the moment to do something. And for me, it's hard riding up, but I'm doing it at 100% training difficulty, so I'm not messing about. But it's good motivation for me to, I guess, it takes me at least an hour to get up there doing it at the pace that I'm doing it on the live stream. But it gives people an opportunity to jump in, have a chat, talk all things bike or where they're at. And little Maxwell pops in with his feet every now and then, and gives me some encouragement. So it's a lot of fun. People are asking on Zwiftcast listeners, who would want to watch someone suffer on a bike? I'm the same. Who would want to watch that? But if you're interactive, there's questions, and you watch me have a bit of a PG rant at the end of getting a helmet, then, drop over to the channel. We'll be going for the helmet or gloves or socks or something again soon.
It'll be the gloves. Nathan, I see you published your schedule just a few hours ago. You looking after your voice, fella?
Yeah, I mean, we're going good. It's lots of fun. I mean, most commentators in esports go 6 to 8 hour days, so I mean, we're an hour at a time, and it's going well. It's going really, really well. Having lots of fun with it. Lots of racers showing up. That's for sure. And we're adding new streams every day. So if I'm not in a stream, it seems like I'm in a meeting about more streams that are about to happen. So that's kind of where things are at.
Wow.
So
that's good news. Good news. Zwift Community Live is where you want to be if you want more Nathan, and more Nathan is always a good thing. Excellent. Thanks, boys. Another highly entertaining hour passed. Not many hours left in the day now. And then another day in lockdown will be done. Sorry to sound fed up, but I am just getting a fraction fed up now. But, it'll be over before too long, and there are people in worse positions. So shut up and get on with it, I think is the answer there. Thanks very much, boys. Talk to you next week. Goodbye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
And just the usual housekeeping spot part 2. We are terribly grateful to Zwift, who continue to support the Zwiftcast in a most generous way. But that doesn't mean they get to say what goes in it, because we do that. Thanks for listening. See you next week.